you're not just a bookkeeper. I mean, when you hear what bookkeepers actually do for small business around the world, you're all remarkable, I think. And if there's anyone listening to this who thinks they are just a bookkeeper, in inverted commas, yeah, let's just get rid of that idea.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be an amazing one. First off, I hope you're all enjoying the holidays thus far. It's hard to believe, and I say this all the time, every single month, it's hard to believe that 2021 is almost upon us, but I'm sure most of the world is not sad to see 2020 go. Regardless, we've planned a special episode for you. It's our year in review show, and it features an amazing group of guests, including Pure Bookkeeping co-founder and eMyth bookkeeper co-author Debbie Roberts, director of bookkeeping relief business services and Australian Pure Bookkeeping licensee Julie Watson, Florida virtual bookkeeper, founder and American Pure Bookkeeping licensee Jessica Fox, and Financially co-founder and Canadian Pure Bookkeeping licensee Teresa Slack. Ladies, welcome to this party.
Thanks, Michael. Good to be here.
Thank you.
It's great to have all of you, and as well, every single one of you have been on the podcast up to this point. And so, listener, if you'd like to hear more from any of these wonderful ladies, you can go into the show notes and find a link to listen to their episodes. We'll have that in the show notes. So I'm excited because, it's a couple of firsts. Number one, we've got, multiple continents going on here. We have Pure Bookkeeping licensees from around the world. We have listeners likely listening from around the world. And we have 4 guests on the show. So I'm a little nervous because, the technical issues and that stuff, but I'm so grateful to have all of you here. And we're going to be talking about this year in review. But before we do that, I'd love for each of you to just let us know whereabouts in the world you are exactly right now. Debbie, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I live in Australia, in the state of Victoria, and in a beautiful location by the seaside on the Bellarine Peninsula. I'm looking forward to some good weather over the summer that we're about to approach right now.
Wonderful, wonderful. All the way down under. And of course, Let's go over to Julie. You're down under as well. Whereabouts in Australia are you living?
Yes, I'm in Melbourne and probably about 2 hours away from Debbie, right near the airport in Tullamarine.
Excellent. I do remember that area. So we have our 2 guests from down under in Australia. And Jessica, whereabouts are you joining us from?
I am in the east coast of sunny but colder than average Florida. So I am enjoying the break from the heat while we're recording this.
Excellent. And Teresa?
Well, Michael, you and we're heading into winter because we're in Canada and we're getting lots of snow. I am just outside of Ottawa, Ontario, which is the capital of Canada. And yes, Debbie, we're heading into minus 20, minus 30, minus 40 degrees over the next few months. So I'm really happy for you that you're heading into summer because we're about to head into the heat of winter.
And I can't even imagine what minus 40 even feels like.
Oh, yeah, it's cold.
Exactly. And we're all hanging out in the World Wide Web. So we're all together, and so cool to have everyone from 3 great countries on the call today. And so looking back, 2020, it was definitely some surprises. And, there was a big surprise of COVID-19, obviously. But I'm curious, we're going into the year and COVID aside, the COVID happened and that was a big surprise, of course. But along with that, I'm curious what all of your biggest surprise has been of 2020. And let's start perhaps with Julie.
The biggest surprise of 2020, it's very hard to go past what happened with COVID, I think, because in Australia, the government stepped in and provided a lot of financial support to business. And they announced a sweep of financial changes really quickly. So the biggest surprise was catching up with all of that. It all went through the tax system, so it all fell on BAS agents here in Australia. And it was a few months really of trying to advise business owners and catch up with the changes, which was so fast. I think because COVID was so quickly unfolding, the legislation was incredibly fast coming out, and the media was giving advice which business owners were acting on, and it was contrary to legislation. So that was a big shock in 2020 for us.
Absolutely. And Jessica, how about yourself?
It's hard to find a surprise that is not somehow related to COVID. One of the things that I think has come out of it is not only seeing how uneven the changes have gone. Some people have barely been affected, whereas others have had major impacts. But what I like seeing is the awakening in a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs that suddenly they are ready and willing to do what it takes to be informed and make educated decisions and actually take control of the direction of their business rather than just winging it.
That's exciting and refreshing.
Yes.
How about yourself, Teresa?
Yeah. What Julie said, I think we dealt with the exact same thing here in Canada. But for me, I would say there was two major surprises. One, of course, is definitely related to COVID, and that is the incredible growth in e-commerce that has happened over 2020. So many businesses around the world have had to pivot, have had to find ways to continue to connect with their clients, and e-commerce has just been massive this year. So we didn't go into the year expecting that kind of growth, but that's definitely what happened. And then I would say the second really big surprise for us in 2020, which thankfully has nothing to do with COVID, is the awards that we won this past year. So our firm won Firm of the Year from CPB Canada, and I was honored to be the Professional Leader of the Year for CPB Canada. But we also had some other awards. I was named Top 50 Women in Accounting, and both my partner Connie and I were both Top 100 Pro Advisors in North America. So it was a year of awards, and that was definitely a surprise for us.
Remarkable, and certainly well-deserved, both you and your sister Connie. And Debbie, biggest surprise 2020?
I think, and congratulations, Teresa. I have done that online, but it's an awesome achievement to be recognised. I think it's really important, and I think for me, we've been supporting our licensees right throughout the year, throwing more and more webinars and just being there. We just felt like, what can we do? What can we do to help our licensees? Because there was so much confusion. As Julie mentioned, the government was throwing money at people, but they had to comply with certain things, and there was a lot of confusion. There was news reports that have come out before the legislation had passed, and licensees were being contacted by clients saying, what are we doing? They're contacting them at midnight on Sunday night and all through the weekend. It was a frantic time, and understandably, because these businesses, that if they didn't get that money, they would have gone under. So I think it wasn't so much a surprise for me, but what was demonstrated, I believe, by all of our licensees was their resilience and their courage and their fortitude and their commitment to their clients. You know, they took on the burden, really, of their clients. It was like their business was going to go under. And they worked around the clock for months and months and months. And I just admire their courage and their fortitude in the face of all of this uncertainty, not only with the actual physical illness, but emotionally, and we had lockdowns. And as Teresa said, there's been some amazing things that have come from that, with people running virtual businesses now. Like, we've had licensees that have actually closed their offices because they realise they can run a business virtually now. So there's been massive changes, and they've had to adapt, and they've done that brilliantly, I think. And I want to congratulate each and every one of you for what you have achieved this year. It's remarkable.
It is. And I think the resilience, great word, the resilience, and as well the adaptation. And I would say that would be my biggest surprise, is how quickly the world has adapted to the way we need to be in order to move our lives forward, whether it's, not all the things that we're not adapting to everything in the world, but what we need to adapt to as a business, as a family, and the people that I see in our community and communities around the world through the Successful Bookkeeper, is that adaptation to technology, to the way things need to be. So remarkable. Now, of course, there's been surprises, but there's likely been setbacks from 2020. And so I'd love to know, if any, what have been the setbacks that you as business owners have faced in your business throughout 2020? Popcorn style, anyone can go.
Well, I'll go ahead then, if you like. It's Teresa.
Please.
So when I think of a setback, to me, that's, we had a plan, and that plan was set back. So one of the biggest goals that we had for 2020, when Connie and I met in December 19 to set all of our goals, was we really wanted to work on automation and systems, because we are positioning ourselves for some rapid growth. So we had all these great plans. We were going to do all of this, and we had it all mapped out, and who was going to do what. And then COVID hit, and we had to pivot. We had to, give our clients so much more than what we had to in the past, from, trying to understand and figure out all of the subsidies, and then work with each of the clients to help them figure out what should they apply for, what can they apply for, what are the rules going to be. Speaking to what Julie said, there was a lot of miscommunication. So a huge percentage of our time this year absolutely needed to go to support our clients and help them through this. But because of that, some of our biggest goals for the year kind of had to go onto the back burner, and they are now on our 2021 plan.
Mm-hmm. Julie, how about yourself in terms of setbacks for 2020?
Yeah, I'm nodding my head while I'm listening to Teresa with all of that. It was quite interesting that, yes, everything that we had planned really had to be put on hold because of the enormous amount of support that we had to give. It was quite interesting, and it was really quite an interesting year. And then we learned so much throughout this year. So even though it felt like a setback, there was just so many more gains that were made in other areas, which I'm sure you'll touch on soon. But I don't feel like a big setback really happened. It's more of a change. It diverted our attention from what we would normally be doing, which would have been growth, into supporting our customers, and it was really valuable. So, yeah, I think that's probably more how I would frame it, but definitely lots and lots of hours. And like Debbie said, the support that we had to give, the phone calls that we were getting. I remember several clients ringing me and saying, I've just stood down my whole team. The news said we're going to get JobKeeper. Everybody's been stood down. So there was all of that kind of mayhem and panic, and you can't do that. You're going to get in trouble. That's actually legal. And So it was so much support, so many hours, additional hours of work, particularly when most of my friends, not in the bookkeeping sphere, were at home without a job and calling us and saying, oh, you must be so bored. And I'm like, oh, no, not really.
So it brings up a question on that note, Julie, is, there has been a lot more hours. I've noticed many in the community working long hours, dedicated to their clients, as Debbie has mentioned. How have you been able to take a break? I mean, many people have been able to do the traditional vacations, getting away. How have you found that throughout 2020?
Yeah, that's been really interesting. I haven't taken much of a break. I know we had a really small window where lockdown sort of stopped and we weren't locked down. I think it was March or April or something. And I flew to interstate for a week. I actually took a week off. It was in June, actually. So it was just before end of financial year here. And then since then, I haven't. So it has been tricky trying to find time off. Now that we're heading into the Christmas period, I'm hoping, and now that things have settled down a lot, that might happen a bit more.
Yes, absolutely. So setbacks, we're talking about the setbacks of 2020. Jessica, how have you noticed any setbacks for yourself in your business in 2020?
Yes. Despite everything that happened with the pandemic, most of the year, my business was on a track of very fast growth. Things were going great. I had all these plans. I was on a roll, creating new systems, creating content, making plans, and then life literally happened. I don't quite call it a setback, although many will consider it to be that. But essentially, my health said, my body came knocking and said, you need to slow down and pay attention to me for a bit. So I've had to pivot and switch gears from fast growth to establishing a continuation plan so that I can take time away from the business and make sure that it can keep on running and that it will still be healthy when I am able to get back to it. So in some aspects, it is a setback, but I see it as an opportunity to put to the test all of the hard work of the last 3 years, documenting all the processes. And now they'll really have the opportunity to shine when I step away for a few weeks.
Remarkable. So a setback and likely a breakthrough for you in your business. So the body said, time to take a break. Thank you for sharing that, Jessica. And Debbie, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think that's one thing that was coming up in our community as well, Jessica, about looking after yourself, which is why we actually added, I think it was an extra 2 community sessions a week, and we were running webinars and things like that. And one of them was was what we called a coffee catch-up. And it was an opportunity for licensees in Australia just to come online. Katrina and I were there, and they were not recorded. And that was so that people could come and just talk about how they were feeling and just to check in. We're actually concerned about you. Are you getting the rest that you need? Are you getting the support that you need? And they went on right over throughout the year and was received really well because it was something that they needed. And I think that's really important, and something that I noticed, that when you focus a lot on everyone else and you're looking after everyone else, you've really got to be mindful of those signs that things are not going so well with your health. And I'm really hoping that as it quietens down, hopefully in North America as well, over the Christmas, there will be at least some time that bookkeepers will be able to take some time off and really reflect as well on the year that was, and put in your plans for next year as well, with a renewed energy, with the batteries recharged.
So true. So true. So definitely some setbacks, mostly, and I think it could be part of the surprise is that COVID-19, as big as a surprise COVID-19 has been, it has actually created opportunity and new ways of new directions for your business, which is in itself a surprise. That it hasn't been a setback. In fact, it's been a breakthrough in many areas of your businesses, which is inspirational. And that comes back to that resilience and an adaptation, which I think as entrepreneurs, as you all are, it should be natural that you will find a way, regardless of the barriers that are put in front of you. You will find a way, and that's what entrepreneurship is all about: breaking into the market, finding a way. So just love those stories. I'd love to hear some stories about your clients. What, and I will ask both heartwarming and heartbreaking if you have any, but you're on the front line, so to speak, of the entrepreneur's journey, small business owners, medium-sized business owners, front lines of those businesses. People talk of healthcare being front line, and of course they are front line in healthcare. But if we're talking about front line of small business, it's the bookkeepers and accountants that are working with these businesses, helping them to keep afloat, helping them find the funds, be empowered around their finances so that they can, make the decisions that they need to make in their business. So I'd love to hear some stories about what you saw of your clients and maybe where you saw the heartwarming effects, and as well were some of the heartbreaks. Why don't we start with Julie?
So we had, it was a little bit surprising because I suppose I expected a lot of our businesses to go down, and we were constantly being asked, how many of your clients have you lost? But we didn't lose any, which was fantastic, and we're really grateful for that. But it was very, very challenging, and if the government hadn't given out JobKeeper, we would have lost more clients. So we had a plumber, and he's just a great guy. He's a sole trader. And unfortunately for him, he was building a house this year. He was getting married. And at the same time, the government locked plumbers down, believe it or not. So you couldn't actually go into somebody's house and do plumbing unless it was an emergency and your house was flooding. So he had...
Aren't they all emergencies?
Yeah. No income, had just taken on a loan and was about to get married. And I was constantly calling him, how are you going? Are you okay? What can we do? And because he was a sole trader and he was very small, he slipped through most of the cracks for the financial support as well. So that was a bit heartbreaking. But I called him yesterday and things are picking up and the lockdown's finished here. So he's a lot happier and he's getting married in 3 weeks. So that was nice. On the other end of the scale, we had one client who was dealing in skincare. So when COVID hit, they manufactured hand sanitizer and their income I think it went 6,000% in growth between 1 month and another. So they actually went absolutely crazy growth because they were manufacturing hand sanitizers so early on in COVID and made just so many sales. That had its own challenges because then, of course, when that dropped down, they had a whopping big workforce and everything. So there was these big extremes in all the cases and then everything in the middle.
Remarkable. How about yourself, Teresa?
Yeah, so it's been an interesting year for us, and you think we must have had a crystal ball because our specialty is e-commerce. So this year has been quite interesting for us. We've had incredible growth this year with e-commerce clients. So we had one client who started with us before COVID hit, and it was actually brought to us from an accounting partner who was struggling to deal with their, this e-commerce business. And this client had not had any financial reporting. She didn't know how she was doing. She's a single mom, with a very small little boy, and she's trying to grow and build this business. And this other firm was really struggling. So they actually said to us, please, can you take her on and help her? And she wasn't sleeping. She was getting no rest because this was just stressing her so much. We were able to get her sorted out, get her cleaned up, and able to give her financial reporting so she knew exactly how she was doing. And thank goodness we did, because about a month or 6 weeks into COVID, her business had, oh, Michael, it grew from, she was making in the hundreds of thousands, and within 3 months, she was making in the millions.
Wow.
So she had,
Incredible.
and if we had not been able to get her sorted when we did, she said to us, she said she doesn't know what she would have done if she had had that kind of growth and not had us helping her. So that really, you know, made us feel like, okay, so here's this single mom. She struggled. She was able to turn everything around, and we were able to have, you know, a very small piece of that to help her sleep. She said she sleeps now, and she wasn't before. So that was, you know, very, very wonderful to hear. You know, you love to see somebody who's worked so hard, who's really struggled, and be able to have the company of their dreams in 2020. And then on the other side of that, we had this wonderful restaurant. She had just bought it in August of last year. So in 19, made a massive investment. She had these huge plans, huge strategies. She came to us to help her get set up and organized right from day one. So she had massive debt because she had just bought this existing restaurant. And due to COVID, she was completely shut down. And because she'd only just got started, she basically was in business for August, September, October, November, December, January, February, and then boom. So she had massive debt load as she was getting up and running, and she did not survive, Michael. She was not able to come back from that, which is just breaks our heart, because she was just a visionary, but this just kicked her, and she's moved on to other things, but we're very, you know, very sad to have seen that happen to her. That kind of broke our hearts.
So true, so true. And you know, it's with every good is obviously something on the other side. But with that, knowing the entrepreneur spirit within her will come back, and I'm sure will continue on.
Yeah, she's already got great ideas. It's just this one really, it really hurt.
It is.
Michael, what
so many
comes to mind, you know, you can't help but think when you hear stories like that, and I mean, the first one you mentioned, Teresa, about helping people, and that woman in the e-commerce would have, who knows what would have happened if you hadn't have set her up correctly and be able to take on all that growth. You're not just a bookkeeper. I mean, when you hear what bookkeepers actually do for small business around the world, you're all remarkable, I think. And if there's anyone listening to this who thinks they are just a bookkeeper, in inverted commas, yeah, let's just get rid of that idea. I don't want to go down a tangent, but I really couldn't help. I've got to just put that in.
I echo it, Deb, and you know, it is what is needed in the marketplace, and you have these skills, you have these abilities, you have this knowledge, and you know, just thinking about the woman who, you know, the restaurant that did not survive, you still have to think the learnings from that for them, for you, and what you saw, and in the future, what it brings is arming and having, when you know that knowledge, it's like, do not proceed without talking to your bookkeeper. Do not start a business without talking to your bookkeeper. I mean, that is, you know, the sage advice that I think will come out of in the future is the, you know, business secret number one: start with a great bookkeeper.
Yes.
And so these stories definitely bring that to light. There's so many stories of, you know, where it all went wrong before they met a great bookkeeper. But absolutely love those, and glad that you brought that up, Debbie. I love her from Jessica as well, still on heartwarming and heartbreak.
Well, this year has been an emotional roller coaster for many of my clients. And this story kind of ties into what Debbie and you were just saying about not being just a bookkeeper. I have this one client, they were fairly new to me when the pandemic started. We had just finished onboarding. I was still getting to know their business. And then everything, you know, the stuff hit the fan. And she went into a panic. not only in her business, but also the effects in her personal life. Suddenly having to adapt to having to homeschool her child, having to try to work while her children were at home, faced with the fact that now she was going to face a divorce and having to move out, and everything in her life was in chaos. And on top of that, her business, which relied heavily on in-person events, almost every event for the calendar had been canceled or postponed. So she was ready to just throw the towel and say, this is it. It was a good run. I am going to get a job. But I was able to first just, take off my bookkeeper hat. I try to treat my clients like family and just say, what's going on? How are you feeling? And allow her to vent and unpack and release that panic that had her so tense. Then once she was in a more relaxed, less emotional state of mind, then I said, let's talk strategy. And we were able to come up with a plan to pivot her business, rearrange everything, the entire structure. Finally, she had been talking about wanting to implement profit first. I just said, if not now, when? So we got that implemented. And I'm very happy to say that now, a few months later, even though, yes, her personal life is still in flux and she's now being a single mother, her business has transformed like a phoenix rising out of the ashes. And I'm just humbled to be able to witness that.
Remarkable. I love hearing stories like that. And Debbie, heartwarming, heartbreaking.
Oh, we didn't know how our licensees were going to go through the year. Julie said you didn't lose any clients. I know there was one of our licensees actually lost most of his clients because he had niched into restaurants and cafes, and they all shut. And so his business, he lost those clients, but he didn't quit bookkeeping. As Teresa said, and we've used this word, we see this word, this is the word of the year, I think, pivot. That's what he had to do. And so he has done that, and he is rebuilding. And then there are other licensees like Julie, Jessica, Teresa, who have actually found ways to even offer more value to their clients and increase. And in some respects, it's not necessarily that, and I don't know in individual cases that they charged extra at the time, but the clients really got to value how important each bookkeeper is in their business. As you said, Michael, don't start in business without getting a bookkeeper first. It's really should come hand in hand. And I think that's one of the heartwarming things that I was hearing in our community of how appreciated the bookkeepers were with their clients, and clients saying the same thing. Couldn't have got through this without you. That's really heartwarming.
And definitely the heartbreak, of course, for those of you listening that may have lost someone during COVID. I mean, it's been a tragedy for our world. And so amongst all of this, there are the heartwarming stories. There are also the heartbreaks. We're focused on talking about business today, but I just wanted to mention that as our heart goes out, our prayers go out to all of you listening as you go through and still deal with this very real situation in our world, this pandemic. So we've talked about the heartwarming stories, and yes, I love these stories. It's what feeds my passion for the work that we do, is the work that you do to help small business. I mean, these are the people that sit around the table at the end of the day. I mean, there's families, our communities. These are the people. Our small business are the lifeblood and beating hearts of our communities. So I always love acknowledging bookkeepers and the work that you do, and at times very difficult work dealing with people, but also dealing with their numbers and their money. I mean, that's if that's on a collision course for chaos at times, I don't know what is. So thank you all listening. Thank you for the work you're doing. Now, let's talk about business strategy. You know, you went into 2020 with a plan. I think, as Jessica mentioned, life got in the way, as it often does. But I'd love to know two things. Number one, what are the strategies that did great, did well for you? Business strategies. This went great. Teresa, you've already mentioned your e-commerce strategy, focusing in that area. But then I'd like to know as well, and have you mention, what was a strategy that's like, hey, that did not work in 2020? I'd love to know if any ones that worked, ones that did not. And Jessica, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Well, a strategy that it wasn't even my primary thing. It was just one of the things in my list, but it's worked so well. And it's one of those examples of it's great when you don't overthink it, is my videos. It's something that I don't plan. If inspiration strikes me, I just click record. I do stream of consciousness, one take, and I am done. But they have really expanded my reach. And the feedback that I have gotten has been so positive. Not only do they generate clients, so they essentially pay for themselves very well, but it also helps inspire people. And the feedback that I get about how reassured they get has been so wonderful. And really, the strategy has been, don't overthink it. Don't try to create anything fancy. Just wait to hear a question that I feel others have, and I just talk and answer that question, and it's been working very, very well.
Lovely.
Now, in terms of a strategy that was not so good, and it's actually been improving, has been growing. When I first started this business, it was not I didn't have any high expectations of growing a team, but I reached that point now. And my first round at it wasn't so good, but my second round of it is going a lot better.
Excellent. Good to hear. Thank you. Great. Two great strategies to talk about. One didn't go as well, hiring, but you're working on it. But I love that video and getting your, everyone has an expertise, knowledge, and get it out to the world. There's people that are craving it and need it. So love that one. How about you, Teresa? Strategies. What went well? What did great? What did not?
Yeah. So one of the strategies that worked really well for us this past year is all the speaking I've been doing in the past year. So I spoke at a lot of conferences, and I actually spoke at more of them in 2020 than in the previous year. It was all virtual. And then the other thing that we did, or that I did in 2020, is started working more closely with Mark Wickersham and actually being one of his trainers. And between speaking at the conferences and, working with Mark, it's raised a lot of awareness about who we are and about our expertise in e-commerce. And 2020, we have seen quite a massive growth in our clients over 2020 because of our expertise in e-commerce, and because we're now getting more and more known for that. It's bringing more clients to us. So that has worked really, really well for us this past year. And then what didn't work so well is, because of this incredible growth that we had, we hired 3 new people at the same time. Actually, I think we hired 6 people over the course of the entire year. And at that point, we had a whole bunch of new clients, all with cleanup work needed. And we had team members that needed to be trained. They already had expertise in bookkeeping, but we needed to train them on e-commerce bookkeeping, which is a little bit more challenging. So we thought, okay, well, we've got all these cleanups. Let's use these cleanups to train our clients, to train our staff with, our new people. Yeah, that didn't work. So yeah, that did not work. That was a big mistake. We should only ever have new people doing beautifully clean e-commerce books, because that failed.
I wish you had spoken to me before you made that. I've got it as a rule, and my number one rule when hiring, never give a new bookkeeper to a new client.
Yeah. So, yep, we've learned. So that's how you learn, right? You make mistakes, you stumble, and then you find a better way, which is what we did. But yeah, that didn't go so well.
Just because someone else has learned the lesson doesn't mean you're not going to. So.
Yeah, if I'd known that.
That's right. Well, let's hope it's lodged in there, and that's what makes the master is skinning the knees several times. So well done on both of those. Thank you, Teresa and Julie. How about you in terms of did great, do better?
Yeah, I think I like that Teresa had to learn about the rescues, giving that to new team members. We had kind of gone through a very minor version of that. So at the start of this year, my intention was to actually have a little bit of a progression. So when we do get new clients, we would give them to one bookkeeper, get them to a point, then move them on. So start with a senior bookkeeper, then move them on to a junior bookkeeper, and that there was going to be this progression. So they would start with me, then move on and end up with maybe the third bookkeeper, which they would stay with. So that was my plan at the start of the year. And we've got a fairly small team, and we did that throughout the year no matter what happened. So we had a lot of new clients coming in. We had a lot of rescues, a lot of cleanups, and we would do exactly that, hoping the system would work. And the good thing is it did work. So it was really great year to try that out. It was fantastic. And I found that all these new clients that we picked up, which were quite big and had big rescues, went through the system beautifully like clockwork. And now they ended up with their regular bookkeeper. And not only that, constantly throughout the year kept telling me how happy they were with the bookkeeping. So it was a great system that worked. And then I think the one that didn't work so well for me was Jessica's example of doing videos. I did all that last year. So I was really good at doing my social media, and I did some great videos, and I was really keen on implementing information out there and helping businesses, helping other bookkeepers and all of that. But I forgot the fact that you have to keep the momentum going. And so this year I didn't do any of it. Look at my Facebook page, there's barely anything on it. And I have sort of dropped the ball there. I haven't continued with videos and posts and information. So I feel like I've got this gap now of 1 year in my presence out there. So unfortunately, I need to catch up with some of that. So I think when you start on that, the videos, you've got to continue and have some kind of continuity, which I didn't do.
Very true. And Debbie, how about yourself? Strategy in terms of what you've seen perhaps out there, what worked, what do you see working, and what do you see that's failed?
Definitely in our community, there's been lots of conversations about value pricing. And I'd still maintain that probably, I don't know exactly the percentage, but I would think still there's a lot of licensees who are still charging hourly and lots of bookkeepers still charging hourly. And we run a monthly book club, and we unpacked Ron Baker's book, Implementing Value Pricing, and we talk about Teresa, we're a big fan of Mark Wickersham's program as well. And it's been a process, I guess a enlightenment journey as it is with value pricing, of understanding. So we've got lots of licensees who are kind of resisting moving over, but they know they need to because they're still offering the same value or more value to their clients, but because of efficiencies, they're getting paid less if they're charging hourly. And there's a whole lot of other reasons. If you read Ron Baker's book, he gives you a whole lot of reasons why charging hourly is wrong. And I think that transition is an ongoing struggle. There are people that have embraced it. I think one of the struggles that bookkeepers have is that we want to get it right. If we don't get it right, then it's wrong, and we don't like being wrong. And so it's that challenge that we have and one of the resistance, I think, the reasons for the resistance to move to value pricing. But there's been, some really things that have really worked well, and licensees that have been kicking goals and doubled their income simply because they've gone to value pricing, and the clients love it. So I think, and that's what I would encourage. If you haven't moved to value pricing, you need to move to value pricing.
Yes.
And maybe make that your thing for 2021.
And on that note, let's talk about 2021. Let's talk about let's talk about where things are sort of moving right now that you see in terms of industry trends. So things happening in the industry at the end of 2020 that are moving us into 2021. Debbie, you've transitioned us in this conversation well. That would be one of them, is pricing. How you're pricing your business is a trend, and it's important and vital. And we'll see a lot more of it in 2021, and I'm sure 2022. What about the rest of you in terms of what you see, and as well you, Debbie, of other trends that you're seeing happening in the industry right now that our listener needs to be paying attention to now and into 2021?
Yeah, I don't mind starting off that conversation because I'm a big advocate of it. It's moving into advisory. I think it all goes hand in hand. When you move into value pricing and you start to realize the psychology behind what people value and how they put a monetary amount on what they value, it's a very interesting behavioral economics is a fascinating subject, and Ron Baker goes right into all of that. And I think that goes hand in hand with the move to advisory. So if you're doing data entry and compliance, and we've actually been saying this for years, but I think this is becoming the whole shift, I think, and the biggest trend is moving to advisory because you're creating efficiencies because of the technology, and the bookkeeping is taking you less time. That means that you're actually more available to do other fun stuff with your clients and to really add the value to the service that you provided. So it's not just bookkeeping in inverted commas. It's not data entry and compliance. It goes beyond that. It's like, yes, let's get all that neat and tidy. Let's provide your clients with some really useful reports, but let's educate them around that. What do these numbers actually mean? That's where you get, Michael, you mentioned earlier about empowering clients around their finances. That was part of my mission statement when I had my bookkeeping business. So it's definitely a trend is to move to advisory, and it's actually important. It's just as important as moving into value-based pricing. It's actually, your business depends on it.
Mm-hmm. So true. And I would say, if we think of Marcus Lemonis as a thought leader and a person who is on the television show The Profit, but he's a very successful entrepreneur, talks about success in a business as people, process, and product, right? Having great product, great people, great process. And so when we're talking about value pricing, when we're talking about advisory, advisory is about that product. What is the product that you're actually delivering to the business owner? And bookkeeping, people talk about bookkeeping, it's just compliance. I mean, I'm up for bookkeeping is like, this is what bookkeeping does. It gives you the information, intelligence to make great decisions in your business, financial decisions in your business. And a bookkeeper helps you get to that point. Whether it's, because you can't have the information if you don't have clean, great data. Dirty data in is dirty information coming out. So love that one, Debbie. And I think that's where get the compliance done well, excellence there, and with that have the time and space to actually do what business owners need desperately. Let's hear from you, Julie, in terms of what you're seeing right now, industry trends of 2020 moving into 2021.
Yeah, I like what Debbie said about moving into advisory. I feel like about a year or two ago, there was a big push for bookkeepers to move into advisory. And I know for ourselves, we tried to implement that with clients and asked them if they wanted advisory, and they weren't ready for it. A lot of them didn't want to or didn't have the time, but it is a natural progression. And I feel like industry trends are heading definitely towards packaging, value pricing. And if you don't value price, you are going to be left behind. But I feel like bookkeepers are catching on now, and it's because clients are pushing that. So clients are hearing that there are bookkeepers doing this, and they're now pushing the conversation. So I'm finding that clients are coming to me saying, well, this is sort of what we want. And it tends to be along the line of advisory. And if advisory sounds a little bit scary, and sometimes it can feel a bit scary when you've been doing compliance so long, if you forget that you're doing advisory, but you pick up the value pricing, like Debbie said, it will be a natural thing. You will naturally want to help them. I was in a florist the other day, and the florist said to me, oh, you're a bookkeeper, can you do my bookkeeping? And I said, well, there's only one proviso, that you want to grow. Because if you don't want to grow, I'm really not the right person for you. And that's the great premise from which we can start, is saying, well, we're here to help you grow. And that advisory falls into that, and great compliance. But I also don't think you can really do great business packages and great advisory without good systems. So that's where the pure bookkeeping system is great, because if you have the system under there and you've got a great system already, then it frees you up to give them good reporting, good advisory, and become the expert in your game. So yeah, it's a bit of a combination. You can't say to a bookkeeper, look, it doesn't matter about your systems, just do whatever, be ad hoc and have a business package, because they probably won't make enough money out of it. It may not work for them. I think, I can see that the industry's headed towards value pricing as a norm, and bit by bit, the bookkeepers on hourly rates, they're going to have to move, or they'll just stop running their business in the end. Yeah. And I see it as a positive thing. I like it because it's improving the status of a bookkeeper, because we're really not bookkeepers anymore. We're really like BAS accountants or, GST accountants. So it does improve the legitimacy of what we do in the industry, and I like that. And that can only be good for the whole industry.
So true. Process, product. And so great to hear Pure Bookkeeping is helping you take care of all three of those. Trends of 2020. Teresa, let's hear from you. What do we see now and going into 2021?
Yeah, I would have said the same thing that Debbie and Julie says, but I'm not going to repeat the same things that they've said. So I'll give you a couple other things that I think are trends, but I am 100% in agreement with what Debbie said and what Julie said. They are the biggest trends. But to go along with that, certainly the move to virtual bookkeeping, moving to the cloud, and that has been accelerated. It's always been growing, but 2020 has accelerated those accounting and bookkeeping firms that were sort of struggling a little bit to make those transitions. So I would say the move to working from home, working virtually, and now to go with that is the setting up of the systems that allow them to do that. So I would say that on top of value pricing and moving to advisory is one of the biggest trends of this year. And of course, I can't not say the biggest trend has been the growth in e-commerce bookkeeping. This year, we've had so many accounting and bookkeeping colleagues reach out to us for help because they're seeing a dramatic increase in e-commerce clients, and they now need to have an understanding of how to deal with that because it is different. It's a little bit outside of what a lot of people are used to doing when you think about traditional bookkeeping. So definitely that has been a massive trend for 2020.
So true. So true. And Jessica, trends of going into 2021.
I have to agree with everything that's been said before. I'm finally seeing the talk about advisory turning into action, and necessity has made those that were resistant to evolving into the cloud and embracing apps in a paperless virtual environment, now they're starting to see the benefit in having that in place. But something that I've also noticed a lot in the last few months, and I expect to continue into next year, is our industry is getting a fresh crop of new bookkeepers. People that had to, for whatever reason, they may have lost their jobs or their situation has become such as a result of the pandemic that they needed to leave their past jobs, and they've seen bookkeeping as something that they could do. So this opens a great opportunity for our industry and for us, the veterans, to sort of become mentors. And I hope that those people find this podcast and listen to it so that they won't go through the growing pains and the trial and errors that I went through when I started years ago.
So true. And the world needs more great bookkeepers. That we can probably all agree on. There is not enough supply to meet the ever-growing demand. And I've said this in other podcasts, I'm sure, but the pandemic, if anything, has awakened and spurred on the entrepreneurial spirit and has put people into the position where they've had to let that spirit be unleashed. And so we're going to see new business starts. We're going to see people realizing that what's possible is beyond what their expectations were. I mean, they've been faced with challenges. They faced those challenges, and now here they have been put out into the world to find their own way. And I think that's going to be great for small business and going to lead a lot of great bookkeepers to help these businesses not only survive but thrive going forward. So some very cool industry trends happening in 2020 going into 2021. And so I'd like to end on, for yourselves, what are you creating for yourself in your business for 2021?
I can start.
Go ahead, Jessica.
So 2021, it's going to be so exciting, even though it may be off to a slow start because I will have to take some personal time to recover. I do see a lot of opportunity for me to expand not only in my client service, but also in the support that I give to other bookkeepers. And this kind of ties into the trend that I've seen of so many new bookkeepers that are joining the industry and they don't really know, and they are thirsty for guidance and for knowledge because they want to get off to a good start. So that's something that's been growing for me this year, and I plan to keep that momentum going next year, but also to continue expanding on the foundation of the systems that I have so that things can be even more streamlined, need even less of my involvement. Anything that can be productivized in my business can be scalable without needing my direct input. So it's going to be very exciting.
Wonderful. How about you, Teresa?
Yeah, so we have big plans for 2021 as well. We, of course, have some things that didn't happen in 2020 that are now moving into 2021, but it's an exciting time to be in e-commerce. It really is. And there's so much growth in those clients, and they all need our help. And because of that, our bookkeepers need our help. So one of the top things that's on my agenda for 2021 is to finally create my e-commerce bookkeeping training program to support other bookkeepers that need help understanding how do I deal with all of these complexities that I'm not used to. So that is absolutely on the top of our mind, is to get that out to be able to help other bookkeepers. Michael, there are so many e-commerce businesses that need help. We need more bookkeepers who are comfortable and confident and able to support them in the way that they need to be. And I want to help make that happen for them.
Very important. And having worked in e-commerce with our own tools and systems and making it all work together, near catastrophic failure if this stuff doesn't get figured out early on in a business, as you mentioned with one of the clients that you worked with. So it looks like a great 2021 for you, Teresa. Exciting times.
It is.
Julie, how about you? 2021, what's on the horizon for you?
I'm really hoping that our system, a flow system, will work better. I have a new bookkeeper who's been with me for 2 months now. So I'm hoping in 2021 she's consolidated and that I'm less on the books and it's a lot more systematic, because what I'd really love to do is get in front of some educators. I'd love to find a way to get into the schools, the tertiary courses for accounting, and present the case for BAS agents and bookkeepers, because I feel like it's still not spruiked in tertiary education at the moment, that when you are looking for a new bookkeeper, you need somebody who's got great qualifications, because here in Australia the chatter is that the qualification level is improving and they're going to require a higher level of education, but we don't have the trainees coming up. So that's what I'd love to do, is get in there and be in front of those educators and try and promote it to the students. Also giving back more into the community, because like the ladies have said, we've learned so much over the years, and there's just so many people that are coming up, like what you guys have done, Debbie and Michael, just inputting back into the community. I'd like to do a lot more of that. It's my intention for 2021.
I love that. And I would say for our listener, what Julie has said is get into the, not only in tertiary, it would be, post-secondary here in North America, post-secondary education, colleges, universities, but schools. I mean, many schools have entrepreneurial programs. I guarantee you, well, I could be wrong, but I challenge, if anybody knows that this is happening already, you tell me and prove me wrong. But I would imagine that these courses that are being done, there's no bookkeeper that's coming in as a guest speaker to talk about, wait a second, back up the truck, hold everything, pump the brakes. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the most important piece, which is the finance, the bookkeeping, and ensuring that you have a clear vision and how you really should start off your business from a financial perspective. And so I absolutely love that as one of your 2020 initiatives. And I would do a call out to our community and our listener. Find those opportunities, your local schools, teach them young, plant the seeds. This is how you lift the brand. This is how you get people searching in search of bookkeepers to help them in their businesses. They need to know that it exists. They need to know what it is and how powerful it can be if they've got the right one working with them. So love that one, Julie. Debbie, 2021, what is on the horizon for you?
Well, I'll speak on behalf of you, Michael, I guess, of Pure Bookkeeping. We are wanting to reach more and more bookkeepers, and we are developing our online programs. And Michael, you've been heavily involved in all of that. I'm very excited to see that coming along, so that we can educate bookkeepers more about how to run a business and how to get clients and all these sorts of things to help to show them how to grow a business. And we're doing that all virtually. We used to run a road show. Traditionally, Peter Cook and I would travel around Australia twice a year and meet with bookkeepers to give them this information. And now we can't do that because of COVID, and we've pivoted as well. So let's run programs online, and I'm very excited about the future of Pure Bookkeeping. And I'd also like to say how humbled I am about the generosity of spirit of the people in our global community, in the Pure Bookkeeping community. And these three ladies here who have just expressed, wanting to give back, wanting to help others. I just absolutely love it. And I see it every day in posts on our closed Facebook groups and on our website, our closed website as well. It's just such a supportive community, and people genuinely wanting to help another bookkeeper grow their business. I don't know of any other group that actually has that generosity of spirit. It's just, I'm humbled and proud by it. It's really amazing.
Yes, absolutely. And, it's the teachers, your bookkeepers in many ways, the ones that I have come across are really have strong teaching spirit and wanting to help people not only get it right, but know why it's right and what it is. And I think that's that's empowering. And I think there's an opportunity to take that out there into the world. And so from a technology standpoint, thank you, Debbie. We're excited about what we're doing here at the Successful Bookkeeper podcast and the Successful Bookkeeper community. And of course, we've just recently launched a brand new version of the Successful Bookkeeper community powered by Pure Bookkeeping, where we have a whole bunch of new courses and more to come. So if you're listening now and you haven't been to the where all the free resources are, you can check that out and opt in and get access to that community, which is completely free, and so many resources and so many more to come this year in 2021. 2021 for us really has been a foundational years of technology and really removing any friction around technology in our processes so that we can just get at the helping bookkeepers grow their business. And that's what I'm excited about in 2021 is it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun helping all of our community build businesses that they love. This has been absolutely fantastic. I mean, 2020, what a crazy year, but what a wonderful year. I mean, we're all alive, grateful to be here, blessed to be here, as you all, our listeners, are as well. And we've proven a lot in 2020, and we're going to have a lot of fun in 2021. I think 2021 is going to be a real party. Prove me wrong, but I think it's going to be a real party. Debbie, Julie, Jessica, Teresa, thank you all for being on the show.
It's been a pleasure.
Beautiful. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guests and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye and Happy New Year. And we will see you then.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.